The click of the key sliding into the lock was the last normal sound Marcus Reynolds would hear before his entire world exploded. One moment he was fumbling with boxes and thinking about where to put his furniture. The next, a voice like shattered glass cut through the afternoon air. "Step away from that house right now, or I'm calling the police." Marcus froze, key still halfway in the lock. His briefcase sat just inside the doorway, closing documents, deed, mortgage papers. Everything that proved this house was his. Everything just out of reach. By the time he turned around, sirens were already screaming down Maplewood Terrace. 2 patrol cars jumped the curb. Doors flew open. Officers charged toward him like he'd just robbed a bank. "Hands up, get away from the door." Marcus raised his hand slowly, deliberately. His heart hammered in his chest, but his face stayed calm. 30 years as a federal prosecutor had taught him one thing: how you react in the first 10 seconds can determine whether you walk away or get carried away. The woman who'd called them, gray hair, thin lips, eyes full of righteous fury, stood on her lawn like a sentinel guarding her kingdom. She had no idea. She just aimed a loaded weapon at the one man who could tear her entire world apart. 3 hours earlier, the August sun hung heavy over Maplewood Terrace, a quiet street in Ashford Hills, where every lawn was trimmed to exactly 2.5 inches and every mailbox gleamed like it had been polished that morning. Margaret Crane sat on her porch, iced tea sweating in her hand, watching the moving truck pull up next door with the kind of intensity usually reserved for crime scenes. The Hendersons had lived there for 28 years. Good people, quiet people, her kind of people. Now they were gone, and someone new was moving in. Margaret's fingers tightened around her glass as a man stepped out of a silver sedan. He was tall, well-dressed in a crisp white shirt and gray slacks, moving with the kind of confidence that immediately irritated her. He wasn't a mover. He wasn't a contractor. He was him. "Unbelievable," she muttered, setting her glass down with a sharp clink. Marcus Reynolds didn't notice her at first. He was too busy directing the movers, pointing toward the garage, checking boxes, making sure nothing got damaged. He'd spent 6 months finding this house, perfect school district, quiet neighborhood, close to his daughter's university. A fresh start after decades of living in cramped apartments near courthouses. A place he could finally call home. He bent down to lift a box marked books and felt eyes on him. When he looked up, he saw her. An older white woman, maybe 70, staring at him like he'd just crawled out of a sewer. He gave her a polite nod. She deliberately turned her head away. Marcus exhaled slowly and went back to his boxes. He'd dealt with worse, much worse. Margaret watched him carry the box toward the front door and pull out a key ring. A key. Her stomach twisted. This wasn't a contractor. This wasn't a cleaning crew. This man thought he owned the place. She stood up so fast her chair scraped against the porch. "Excuse me." Her voice carried across the lawn like a whip crack. Marcus paused, the key halfway to the lock. He turned, eyebrows raised. "Yes, ma'am." "Who let you in there?" Margaret demanded, marching toward the property line. "Which realtor gave you those keys?" Marcus set the box down carefully. "I'm not a realtor, ma'am. I'm Marcus Reynolds. I own this house." Margaret's laugh was sharp and humorless. "You expect me to believe that?" "It's the truth." The Hendersons would never sell to someone like. She caught herself, but not quickly enough. The pause hung in the air like poison gas. Marcus's expression didn't change, but something hardened in his eyes. "Someone like what?" Margaret's jaw tightened. "Someone I don't recognize, someone who doesn't belong here." "I have the deed, ma'am. I closed escrow 3 weeks ago. I'm moving in today." "We'll see about that." Margaret's hand was already digging into her cardigan pocket, pulling out her phone. "Ma'am, that's really not necessary." 911, what's your emergency? Marcus stood perfectly still, watching her with the kind of calm that only comes from experience. He knew exactly what was happening. He'd prosecuted enough cases to recognize the script. "Yes, hello," Margaret said, her voice suddenly trembling. "I need to report a break-in. There's a man at 412 Maplewood Terrace trying to force his way into my neighbor's house. He has tools and he's being very aggressive. I don't feel safe." "Ma'am, that is completely false," Marcus said, his voice firm but controlled. Margaret turned her back to him, lowering her voice. "Please hurry. I think he might be dangerous." When she hung up, she turned back with a small, satisfied smile. "The police will sort this out." Marcus looked at her for a long moment. His voice, when he spoke, was quiet. "Do you understand what you just did?" "I reported a suspicious person." "You filed a false police report." Margaret folded her arms. "The officers will decide what's true." In the distance, sirens began to wail. Marcus carefully set down the box he'd been holding. His expression betrayed no fear, only a deep, bone-tired weariness. Margaret stepped back onto her own property, satisfaction radiating from her like heat. "Now we'll see who really belongs here," she said coldly. The cavalry arrives. The sirens grew louder, sharper, closer. 2 patrol cars screamed around the corner and skidded to a stop in front of Marcus's house. Neighbors began appearing on porches, behind curtains, drawn by the spectacle like moths to a flame. Officer Jake Brennan was out of his car before it even stopped moving, hand hovering near his holster. His partner, Officer Nina Vasquez, followed close behind. "Step away from the door, hands where I can see them." Marcus raised his hand slowly, deliberately. "Officers, there's been a misunderstanding." "I said step back," Brennan barked, closing the distance fast. Marcus took 2 measured steps backward, hands still raised. "My name is Marcus Reynolds. I own this house. I just moved in today." "That's a lie," Margaret's voice cut through the tension. She hurried toward the officers, pointing at Marcus like he was a wanted fugitive. "I saw him trying to break in. He's been lurking around all afternoon, checking windows, acting suspicious." Vasquez glanced at Margaret, then back at Marcus. "Sir, sit down on those steps. Keep your hands visible." Marcus complied, lowering himself slowly onto the porch steps. His briefcase sat just inside the open door, tantalizingly close. Every document he needed to prove his ownership was less than 6 feet away. "Officers, my wallet is in my back pocket," Marcus said calmly. "My identification and closing paperwork are inside the house, if you'll allow me to show you." "Just sit tight," Brennan interrupted. His tone sharp. "We'll get to that." Margaret stepped closer, emboldened. "He's lying. I know the Hendersons. They would have told me if they sold the house." "Did they tell you everything about their lives, ma'am?" Marcus asked quietly. Margaret's face flushed. "Don't get smart with me." More neighbors had gathered now. An older couple across the street, a middle-aged man with a dog, a woman with a phone held up, clearly recording. Brennan pulled out his notepad. "Sir, how did you get into this house?" "With my key, because I own it." "Convenient answer." "It's the truth." Vasquez exchanged a glance with her partner. Something about this didn't feel right. The man on the steps wasn't acting like a criminal. He was calm, articulate, and far too composed for someone caught in a lie. "Can I see your ID, sir?" Vasquez asked, her tone slightly softer. "Absolutely. My wallet is in my right back pocket. I'm going to reach for it slowly." "Do it." Marcus moved with exaggerated care, sliding his wallet free and holding it out. Vasquez took it and flipped it open. Her expression changed immediately. She pulled out Marcus's driver's license first, then froze when she saw the credential card tucked behind it. "Brennan," she said quietly, "you need to see this." Brennan took the card and read it twice. His face went pale. "Sir, are you Marcus Reynolds, the federal prosecutor. Yes. A ripple went through the gathered neighbors. Margaret's face drained of color. Vasquez stepped back slightly, her demeanor shifting. Sir, I apologize. We were responding to a report of— A false report, Marcus corrected, his voice still calm but edged with steel. This woman deliberately lied to dispatch because she didn't like the look of me. That's not true, Margaret's voice rose, desperate now. I was protecting the neighborhood. How was I supposed to know he was some prosecutor? He could have been anyone. But I wasn't anyone, was I? Marcus said quietly. I was exactly who I said I was. Brennan shifted uncomfortably. Ma'am, did you actually see him break into the house? I saw him, he had keys, but— Did he break anything? Damage any property? No, but— Did he threaten you? Not with words, but the way he looked. Vasquez cut her off. Ma'am, filing a false police report is a crime. Margaret's eyes went wide. You can't be serious, I was trying to help. You lied to 911 dispatch, Vasquez said flatly. You told them he was breaking in. You said he was aggressive. None of that was true. Margaret's hands began to shake. This is insane. I'm the victim here. Marcus stood slowly, brushing off his slacks. He looked at Margaret, really looked at her, and when he spoke, his voice was quiet but devastating. You're not the victim. You never were. The reckoning. 2 days later, the story had spread like wildfire. Local news picked it up first, then regional stations, then national outlets. Federal prosecutor profiled in his own driveway. Margaret Crane was charged with filing a false police report. Her mugshot, tight-lipped and defiant, was plastered across every news site. But Marcus wasn't done. He spent the next week digging, and what he found was worse than he'd imagined. Margaret had made 17 similar calls over the past 5 years, every single one targeting people of color, delivery drivers, landscapers, a teenager visiting his grandmother, a real estate agent showing a house. The pattern was undeniable. Marcus compiled everything into a case file and handed it to the district attorney with a simple note. Do your job. The DA did. Margaret was convicted, not just of the false report, but of a broader pattern of harassment. She was sentenced to 6 months in county jail, 200 hours of community service, and a permanent restraining order from contacting Marcus or entering Maplewood Terrace. The neighborhood changed after that, slowly, painfully, but it changed. Some neighbors apologized. Others moved away quietly, unwilling to face what they'd defended. Epilogue. 6 months later, Marcus stood in his front yard on a crisp Saturday morning, holding a young oak sapling. His daughter Jasmine knelt beside him, helping dig the hole. You sure you want to plant it here, Dad? She asked. Right where everyone can see. Marcus smiled. That's exactly why. They lowered the tree into the earth together, packing soil around its roots. A few neighbors watched from their porches. Some waved, others didn't. Marcus didn't care. The tree would grow, its roots would spread deep, and decades from now, long after he was gone, it would still be standing, tall, strong, and impossible to ignore. A reminder that he was here, that he belonged, that he wasn't going anywhere. As he watered the sapling, a woman from across the street approached hesitantly. Mr. Reynolds, she said, I just wanted to say, I'm sorry, I should have spoken up that day. I was afraid, but that's no excuse. Marcus nodded, thank you. She walked away, and Jasmine looked up at her father. Think people will ever really change? Marcus straightened, brushing dirt from his hands. Some will, some won't, but they'll all remember who planted roots here. He looked down at the young tree, fragile but resilient, and smiled. That's enough. If this story moved you, hit that like button. Subscribe so you never miss the next one. And remember, your story matters too.